All right, let's take a tour of one of the most incredible, most efficient factories you've ever seen. This place runs 24/7. It has a workforce of billions, and it's all focused on one single, absolutely vital mission. And no, we're not talking about cars or smartphones. We're talking about the male reproductive system. So let's dive in and see how this microscopic world works.
Think about this for a second. 1,500 new cells every single second. I mean, that's just a mind-boggling number. How is that even possible? Well, this isn't chaos, not at all. It's an unbelievably precise, hormone-driven assembly line with one very clear purpose. And on this tour, we're going to see exactly how this biological marvel pulls it off.
You know, any great factory has a mission statement, right? A blueprint that tells every worker exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So, before we step onto the production floor, we've got to understand the why, the ultimate goal of this entire system.
It really all boils down to three main jobs that have to work together perfectly. First, the factory has to actually produce the product, which is, of course, the sperm. Second, it needs to power the whole operation, and it does that by making hormones like testosterone. And third, once the product is made, it has to deliver it through a pretty sophisticated transport system. Produce, power, and deliver. That's the mission. Okay, hard hats on, everyone. We are now entering the main production facility. This is the heart of the whole operation, the place where all the manufacturing really happens. Inside the testes. So, picture this. Inside these glands, you've got all these little compartments, and crammed into those are hundreds and hundreds of super long, coiled-up tubes. These are called the seminiferous tubules. If you think of the testes as the factory building, then these tiny tubes, these are the actual assembly lines, where the sperm are built from scratch. And of course, no factory can run without its workers, right? This one has a few very specialized teams. On the assembly line itself, you've got the spermatogenic cells. These are the folks actually building the sperm. Then you have the support crew, the Sartoli cells, who are there to provide food and protection to the developing sperm. And then, overseeing the whole thing, you've got the management team, the Leydig cells. And their job is to produce testosterone, the hormone that basically keeps the factory's lights on. Now, here is one of the most critical and kind of weird design features of this factory. Its climate control system. The scrotum keeps the whole operation just a few degrees cooler than the rest of the body. And this is not a design flaw, it is an absolute, non-negotiable requirement. Sperm production is so sensitive that this slight drop in temperature is totally essential for anything to get built correctly. So we've met the crew and we've seen the factory floor. Now let's zoom in and take a closer look at the actual assembly line process. It's a super detailed procedure, and it's called spermatogenesis. This isn't just one simple step. It's a highly regulated four-stage process. It all starts with multiplication, where the basic stem cells just make more of themselves. Then comes the growth phase, where they bulk up a bit. Step 3 is maturation, and this is where the magic happens. The cells go through a special division called meiosis to cut their genetic info in half, which is crucial for later. And finally, you have spermiogenesis, which is like the finishing touches, where the cells get remodeled into that classic sperm shape we all recognize: head, midpiece, and tail. So how long do you think that whole four-step journey takes? A day? A week? Get this. From a single stem cell to a fully formed sperm takes about 74 days. It's a really long and detailed process. And remember, this is happening for millions of cells at once, all the time, 24/7. So who's running this whole show? Who's in charge? Well, it all comes out to two key hormones that act like factory managers. Think of FSH as the assembly line supervisor. It's down on the factory floor, directly telling the worker cells to get going. And then you've got LH. LH is more like the overall plant manager. It doesn't talk to the line workers, it gives its orders to the management team, the Leydig cells, telling them to produce more testosterone to fuel the entire factory. Okay, so the product is finally assembled. We're done, right? Well, not quite. See, fresh off the assembly line, these sperm are pretty immature. They can't even swim yet. So they have to travel to the next department for some final touches and storage. And that department is called the epididymis. This long, coiled tube, the epididymis, is basically part training camp and part warehouse. Three really important things happen here. First is maturation. This is the boot camp where the sperm learn to swim and gain their motility. Second is storage. It's a secure warehouse where the finished product is kept safe until it's needed.
And finally, it serves as the on-ramp to the highway out of the body. So, our sperm are now mature, they can swim, and they're ready for deployment. But they can't make the journey alone. It's a long and pretty hazardous trip. They need fuel, they need protection, they need a transport vehicle. And that's where the factory's dedicated support crew, the accessory glands, come into play.
Now here's a fact that might actually surprise you. The final product that leaves the body, semen, is not mostly sperm, not even close. The sperm themselves make up only about 5% of the total volume. The other 95%? That's all a specialized fluid that's mixed in by two key glands, the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland. They do most of the heavy lifting here.
So what's in this fluid cocktail that makes it so important? Well, it's a carefully crafted mix where each gland adds its own special ingredient. The seminal vesicles add fructose, which is basically a high-energy sugar to fuel the long swim. The prostate gland adds enzymes that help with motility. And finally, the bulbourethral glands add a mucus to lubricate the pathway. It's the perfect life-sustaining mixture, tailor-made for the mission ahead. All right, we have our payload, the sperm, and we have our fuel and transport vehicle, the seminal fluid. Now we just need to cover the final leg of the journey, the delivery system that gets everything from storage to the launch point. Okay, let's trace this final path. From the epididymis warehouse, the sperm travel up a long transport duct called the vas deferens. This tube merges with a seminal vesicle at a junction called the ejaculatory duct. This is the final mixing station where the fluids are added. And from there, the complete mixture, the semen, enters the urethra, which is the final channel out of the body. The final launch itself is like a two-stage rocket. The first stage is called emission. This is where the semen is loaded into the urethra at the base of the penis, kind of like getting the rocket onto the launch pad. This is followed immediately by stage 2, expulsion. This is a series of muscle contractions that forcefully propels the semen from the body. This is ignition and liftoff. And there you have it, the full tour. A 74-day journey from a single cell through a complex assembly line managed by a precise chain of hormonal commands, all leading up to a single moment. It's just an incredible example of the precision of biology. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other remarkable little factories are humming away inside of us, right now, completely without us knowing?